Here's a part of the Wirral I've never been to on the Maythorn Monthly before. It's Bidston Hill, and it's right in the middle of the peninsula, so you got views out both ways, to across the Mersey and across the Dee. And you've got some interesting things up here like the Bidston Observatory, the windmill and the lighthouse. So how about that for a day out? And luckily today the weather is fine. Foreign holidays tend to start and end at an airport, involve time on the beach, in the sea, in bars and restaurants, and looking at some of the local products, like this bread has an interesting name. We also quite often go on a boat trip because that's what we like to do, and this holiday was no exception. I'm a property investor, so I feel quite at home on building sites, and that's where we found a cafe to have some refreshments. It was an Italian restaurant run by a German woman, which was an interesting concept. This is actually an Italian restaurant, and we've all been speaking German because of the lady here, who's German. Strange. You got the title of the shop, have you? Yeah. Jawohl. When you're travelling with young teenagers, you can't really avoid going to McDonald's at least once on your trip, but there was plenty for them to do elsewhere, whether you wanted to play pool or play the guitar. Mike got chatting to the singer who was appearing at the bar in our resort and managed to borrow his guitar for a while. We didn't go to the casino, we did go to the Tandoori Balti, and we did find a reptile on the ceiling of our apartment. We can't bring you the music from the bar restaurant because of copyright reasons on YouTube. We can go on a boat trip though, and here is where you see the coast from the other side, and our boat had a lower deck that was underwater, which you'll see later on.
Atlantic Ocean. This is not Loch Lomond. It might move from time to time, so everybody be careful. cars, no electricity, no running water. And Antonio, up in the lighthouse, has to keep the fire burning at night. Now, didn't he think? Yeah, and he's not really you want that back to me, and then people are going to let so that I can really in the
It's a fantastic arrangement. You shouldn't have that in. That's sort of like. Ah yes, banking. Oh, by the way, before we start, this is a Peroni glass with tap water in it. None of the hard stuff for me. See the screen? Seems to me like there's a new bank launching once a month at least. This one's called Hammock, and they all have this little niche now because obviously we haven't got a lot of room for a brand new major scale bank. So Hammock is for landlords. As it says here, they do rent collection and bookkeeping and analytics and all sorts of things within the banking app. So it does your banking for you. It sends your invoices, your rent invoices to your tenants. It monitors progress, sees if the rent comes in on time, sends them reminders, all that. But there's a charge for that, and it's not a charge that I could swallow, so I'd rather carry on doing that myself. All the banks that I've been using are free. And I've been trying some of these new banks for now 4 years, yes. The most recent ones I've told you about were Anna, so I'll keep you up to date with some of the ones I'm using. Anna turned out to be a bit of a gimmick. It promised a meow when you used it at a debit terminal. It promises you accounting for the small business. Unfortunately, the offering is terrible. I tried invoicing customers with it. It went badly wrong and I ended up having to send invoices manually as usual. N26. Now I use N26 in Spain. They're a German bank. I got a Spanish IBAN, so I can do all my banking in Spain with N26. 18 months or so ago, they launched in Great Britain. Quite a celebration they held, but April this year, they pulled out of the UK. Now, whether that was because they hadn't had much success or they just thought Brexit, no, we're not interested in non-EC countries, who knows. Monzo, I happen to mention, I've been with for 3 or 4 years now. Started off with their personal account, I've now got a business account. I made a remark about the colour of their debit card. I've recently had a new one, still the same colour, so people still look at it. Revolut, yes, Revolut are amazing. They're not a very good bank. I tried using them as a current account bank. Nah, they haven't got all the pieces in place yet, and they don't do things very well in that respect. But as a multi-currency account in which you can hold all sorts of currencies, I hold Australian dollars, Bulgarian lev, euros and sterling. I can also hold Bitcoin and several other cryptocurrencies. I can store gold and other precious metals in there. It's an amazing account for someone who's a bit of an investor and a bit of a traveller. And they've opened up in the US. I did mention they were running in Australia. I didn't realise at the time that was in beta mode, but in the last month they've now come into full Australian banking licence. Their transactions are now real time, which apparently they weren't before. So Australian people like our family over there can now get a proper bank account in Australia with Revolut. Starling Bank, they still, I think, are the only ones who make their debit cards this way round. Portrait, I suppose you'd call it, rather than landscape. So that's their little edge. And over in Bulgaria, on the edge of Davy's house, there's a fire. Well, there has been a fire during August. The field behind his house, once again, has had quite a large fire. It wrapped round the side of his house, just avoiding burning his house down, and went onto his front lawn, which you may remember he laid a year or so ago, and we showed some pictures at the time. Well, now we're showing you pictures of it all burnt. Back in the UK, and this is a location that I actually started the programme from in August, but I didn't show you the rest of it. It's a pleasant country park. It's built on the site of old coal mines. It's a long thin strip of land with two long thin lakes, and it goes right up towards the Brumbo Steelworks, and at the top end there's Moss Valley Golf Club, which we didn't go to. But a nice place for a walk, and there's miles and miles of it if you like a long walk. And I first discovered Moss Valley Park back in the 80s when I was working at Marcher Sound, because it's a place quite near to the radio station. And in fact, the mast which transmits the programmes from Marcher Sound is at the top of the hill overlooking that valley. Now let's have a look over what we were discovering 2 years ago in the Maythorn Monthly. Colin finally got his drone to fly, and we flew over the city centre of Chester. I went to Alcacebre, which is on the east coast of Spain, just north of our resort at Marina d'Or. Back in England and in the Lake District, I went to the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway on the Cumbria coast. And then we did some more work with the drone. I had a go at letting it follow me, and then we flew over one of my property renovations to see what it looked like from the sky. Finally, we were at Castellón de la Plana, and I visited Ribalta Park. On the hard stuff again now. This is the time where we go to our Play It Smart spot. This is where my radio programs combine with some video that I took, and yet the two are totally unrelated. This month they're 20 years apart. We're in 2008 at Marina d'Or with the pictures of the fairground there, and another fairground back in the 80s that we visited. It was a day trip to Alton Towers with a coach from Wrights of Wrexham on Marcher Sound.
Hello, it's Brian Smart, and we're on the Wrights of Wrexham bus on our day trip, and we've got about 20 youngsters from Chester and Wrexham on the bus, and here we go! 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 And where are we going? So here we are, we've arrived at Alton Towers, and we're on the log flume, and I've got my equipment covered with a mat here because we're going to get rather wet. And there's two girls in front of me. What's your names? Yeah. Okay, have you been on this before, anything like this?
No.
No, well, I've seen the people getting off, and they're all rather soaked.
Oh.
Now, I think we're all going to get rather wet here. Are you looking forward to this?
Yeah.
Yes, well, you're better dressed than me. I've just got a t-shirt on. I'm going to get absolutely soaked. Well, what's actually happening now is we're just being propelled around a sort of a chute full of water, and the motor noise you can hear now is us having arrived at the bottom of a quite a steep incline. I can't find anything to hold on to. I don't know about you. Are you all right at the back there?
Yeah.
What are your names?
Gareth and Michael.
Gareth and Michael. We're getting near the top here. We're about to go down. I'll have to hold on to the back of your seat. And we just come into a load of water. We didn't get too wet that time. I know this is a strange thing to think about. You're from Wrexham, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, we're up here, but just before we do one of those shoots again, would you like to say hello to anyone back home who may be listening?
Yeah, Mark and my mum and dad.
Yeah,
And my sisters.
Me mum, me dad, Debbie and Colin.
Now we're going in a tunnel now. It's gone very dark and we can't see anything. Oh, we're coming out again now. And there's come out the other side, there's some sort of elephant with big tusks on the left there, but it's not real. And let's see if the lads at the back want to say hello to anyone while we're on this safe bit.
My mum.
What's your name, by the way, again?
Gareth.
Gareth, and your mum and dad, yeah? Anyone else?
And me sisters. My brother's girlfriend, Christine, and her sister,
There's a train. You see the train below us there now?
Yeah.
I hope to have a go again on that later. What about you? Do you want to say hello to anyone?
Hello to mum, my dad, and all the pigeon fanciers.
All the pigeon fanciers?
Yeah.
Oh, is your dad one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of this this rather flat bit. We're actually about 25 foot above ground level on a sort of overhead bridge. And we're going up again. And we're going into it. We're in the dark again now. And we just got soaked, but we can't see a thing. It's pitch black and ghostly, and we're now inside some sort of a cavern. And if you can hear me amongst all the screaming, we took a sudden plunge there in complete darkness. It was very worrying, particularly for me, because I'm holding all these microphones and bits of equipment, and I have only got one free hand to hang on with.
I'm not even old enough.
And if that happens again, I can see myself falling out of here. Well, we've come out into the open again now, as you can probably tell. And we're all rather wet, and we're going on another climb. This is lift number 3, the sign announces. And we're climbing up now, so we've got a very good view of the coach park. Excellent view of the coach park and some of the smaller rides. And there's a man just handing out stickers. What did you... Oh, here we go again. And that was the last one, and that really has soaked us. Are you wet now?
Yeah.
Absolutely soaked. What did that man hand you on the way down?
Log flume, the world's biggest log flume.
That's right, it is the world's biggest log flume, and it must be the world's wettest as well. It's soaked through now. Oh, where can we go to dry out? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
Yes. I must turn round. What about the lads? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you soaked?
Yeah.
I'm surprised, because I think I sheltered you from most of it. Well, after that, I think we should have some watery music. I think I've had enough of this. We'll see you later on. Let's have a bit of music.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath.
Well, last month I said that we'd be spending August and September on this house in Trythin. I didn't know at the time that Bob, who is my handyman at this job, was taking a couple of weeks off at the beginning of September, and he's on holiday down in Pwllheli, and he won't be back until at least the 15th of September. However, let's look back on August, see what we've done. And a month ago I showed you some of the electrics challenges. I was pulling out the wiring from the wall in the kitchen. Since then we've got a new cooker switch and fitted that. Bob knocked out all the plaster. In some cases we had to put new back boxes in, and all the old rather untidy metal sockets that were there, and I'm sure they were very fashionable at the time, have been replaced by just plain white ones, which is actually the opposite to what we normally do, but in this case I thought it was a better thing to do. Behind me you can see the work that Bob did on the old airing cupboard. I think I can find some pictures of how it used to look. It was one huge ugly cupboard. It used to contain the immersion heater and the cold water tank, judging by the structure that was inside. All that had been ripped out and stolen because it was copper. And now the huge cupboard right up to the ceiling has gone too. We have a ceiling to repair. I think that's called Lathen plaster or something like that, the original ceiling that's here. It does need fixing. There will be a hot water tank here, but it'll be more of the type that you find in our properties in Europe, like the ones we have in Spain and Bulgaria, not the traditional copper cylinder that you find in Britain. We've replaced all the wiring into the bathroom. It was all hanging loose above the ceiling. We had to build a stud wall between the bathroom and the landing, and really Bob wanted to put plasterboard on that, so we put the wiring back in place and we fitted the appropriate switches to fit in with regulations, isolators on the outside on the landing for the towel rail and the shower, and also a pull switch inside. I'm not sure if that's entirely necessary, but we always fit one, so it must be right. I spent an entire day in this empty house during August waiting for delivery of plasterboard and other materials. So anyway, having more plasterboard has given us the ability to do things like this behind us. And the little second bedroom, which was a kid's bedroom once, we'd not really started on that. A bit of leftover plasterboard had gone on the ceiling in July, but now we've got the delivery. That ceiling's been finished, and there's a sort of little alcove. I'm sure the Americans might call it a closet, although it's probably not big enough for them to call a closet. We've started plasterboarding in there because that was a right mess as well. So gradually things are getting tidied up. So it's a lot of plastering and decorating and stuff to do, and then we'll have to check on the plumbing, do something with the kitchen, and finish off all the wiring, get an electrician in to certify it. Only a few months' work. So that's the property update for September's Maythorn Monthly. Hopefully by the 5th of October, when we're back again, we'll have a few more weeks' work to show you and a little more progress. Davey's made a little progress in Bulgaria. This is the house he's been doing up for the two ladies from South Wales. And you'll recall this walk between the two buildings where they were building a new bathroom round the back, and that was more or less finished when we last showed you that. If you turn left when you get to the end of the passageway, there was an area where just a load of building materials were stored. Well, that's now been cleared, and apparently it's going to become a fairly secluded patio. Now, one of the things I like to bring you in the Maythorn Monthly is transport, and by transport I mean public transport, and we're supposed to avoid the trains and boats and planes at the moment, so I've been using my car a lot more than normal. This is Bennett's Lane in Higher Kinnerton, and I went back down here with my camera to try and see what part of some grid that I had managed to run into had actually torn my tyre. The funny thing about this was that I was at Trident changing the wheel when I discovered this gash on a flat tyre, and one of the wheel nuts I couldn't get undone. I needed one of those hydraulic things garages have. So I called my rescue service, and as you can see, they didn't send me a mechanic with a hydraulic wheel nut remover. They sent me a recovery vehicle. Yes, they took it to the garage for me to let them do it. Hello again. I like to prove that technology has some use, and I take lots of video, and it's not just video that I put out on YouTube, it's video that I take stills from. I actually freeze some of the frames and keep them, use them as wallpaper on my monitors. This is a Lavazza coffee point in Svistov, Bulgaria. This is camel leads in Birkenhead, which I've printed and put in a frame. This is a pile of firewood from Marina d'Or, Oropesa del Mar, which was for the big paella eat-in, eat-out. I've got that on a shelf in the kitchen. Not that we cook paella in the kitchen. This is a souvenir of lockdown. This is the disused railway line here in Higher Kinnerton, where we were in a period where we weren't allowed to go beyond our own village. I took a video of the disused railway line, and that is a still from it. Not a steal, a still. And this can also hang on the wall somewhere, because I've got it printed and in a frame. And that's embarrassing because that wasn't meant to come up, but on the screen behind, a birthday card that I made for one of my granddaughters in Australia, and sent to her when she became a teenager at 13. Quick edit. Now we've got the Carlsberg factory in Shumen, Bulgaria, and we've got this building under construction, under maintenance in Oresh, Bulgaria. So final piece of technology anyway, that's just a way of showing you how I use some of the technology I've got here, and during the lockdown I've reorganized all my media so I can more or less call up anything from cloud and local storage, but that's another story. Right, home automation is the other thing we cover. Some of you may recognize this. This is a back box for taking a socket or a switch. I use these to automate a home by having relays that I can control from an app on my phone. Now, this is the relay. So we take a stud wall, we put one of these back boxes in, they just press in. We mount the relay in the back, like that. Put the switch on the front, like that. The tenant in the property can turn this one's for heater, turn the heater off and on manually, but I can also turn it on from my app. So I set up a program where the heating comes on in the morning at 6 o'clock, say, heats the place till 8, so they can get up and go to work, and then puts it back on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for the evening. But if they're having a day off, they can just manually override what I've done and bring the heating on. So there you go. That's automation, relay in a box. That's just about boxed off this month's Maythorn Monthly. I'm going to leave you with some pictures from 2007 when our team were at Sunny Beach and Nessebar. I'm not going to show you Sunny Beach, it's just another resort, but Nessebar is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's over 3,000 years old and it's worth a look around. With that, I say goodbye and see you next month.